Team, how are we? Welcome back to another episode of the High Performance Coach podcast. Today, I have an incredibly special guest, somebody who's been on the podcast before, and somebody who plays an integral role inside the High Performance Coach, Mr. Troy Nixon. How the devil are you?
Mr. Joe Parrish, thank you for having me on, mate. Good to see you as always. So looking forward to this chat.
Mate, tell everybody about how you are taking 3 months off the secret sauce.
Ah, mate, the old brain juice, the cognitive source. Yeah, mate, coffee. I'm having 3 months off to be curious, explorative, and hopefully somewhat psychedelic on the back of it to see see how I respond on that first cup of Joe coming back. So yeah, mate, I'm apprehensive. I'm missing my routine, but I'm looking forward to the journey.
It's 7 days in, or not even 7 days in, five days in. How are you? How's it been so far?
Managing it better than I thought. Managing it better than I thought. I've heard that you're going to jump on with me.
As Leanne should literally just pass me another my second cup of coffee of the day. So now I'm like, yeah, mate, I'm curious. I'm curious. I'm gonna watch the video and then basically make a decision. Like we spoke about before, it's actually for me, it's and I think the same for you. It's like almost like the routine and just like the enjoyment of it. And you're obviously a connoisseur of the process. You're a master of the process. So I think it's that bit more so than actually the thing. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, definitely the ritual of it. Do you know what I mean? I always think about what does a good cup of coffee mean to me, and it's like feels like home. Do you know what I mean? It's just like it just warms your bones up and your soul kind of thing. So I don't know why I'm doing this stuff, to be honest with you, mate. I'm almost talking myself out of it at this point, but
It's,
we'll
it's one of
see.
the only simple pleasures. It's only one of the simple pleasures and joys of life, and I'm just going to restrict and restrain myself from it for three months, mate. You are literally yeah, like I say, you are the connoisseur of coffee. Just to give you some context, by the way, when Troy comes up to our house in Scotland, he will make all of the coffee because that's his job, and he just takes responsibility. That wasn't me. That wasn't even me being dictated. It was just a role that he decided to take, and then he just cleans my pipes as well, don't you? You just
And the coffee machine.
and, but you literally just come up, mate. Yeah, I've just cleaned your coffee machine. Like, mate, that thing's not been cleaned since Leanne had to do it just because I just ignore the flashing lights that just come on and I'm completely oblivious to it, mate. You give it an MOT and a full service, and yeah, mate, you're in your element.
Yeah, got to look after you, haven't I, mate? Got to look after you.
100%, buddy. 100%. Dude, tell me, because I know that you've been doing a lot of work at the moment with regards to lead generation, looking at obviously the process of now being able to create a launch, lead magnets in an incredibly successful way, based upon what you've been exploring, implementing, actioning with obviously a lot of the guys inside the program. What are some of the things that have been working incredibly well from a lead magnet perspective, and some key processes or principles that you think people quite often overlook or don't take into account?
Two things that stand to mind really is following essentially a repeatable structure and system for it. I think a lot of, and I feel guilty of this as well, is a lot of coaches think that, when you're launching something, whether it's a lead magnet or program, it's almost like wake up on Monday, post, nothing happens. That was a waste of time. Whereas there's an actual process that leads up to that. Whether it's 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, whatever it is, there is an actual strategy that needs to go inside of that before we launch lead magnet. And the reason being is you want as many eyes on there as possible, as many pieces of engagement as possible and reach, so that on day of launch for the magnet or program, you then have as many opportunities for people to see it, put their hand in the air, and for you to collect their information as well. The second thing that really stands out, which works really well for people, is making sure that it's named correctly. I think this gets overlooked quite a bit because it's almost maybe not on people's radar, or doesn't seem quite as important because we put so much emphasis on the value of the magnet itself and the content of it. And so what I've seen in the past is people have named it such almost boring names and not get any takers, and they wonder why. I actually had a call with a coach a couple of weeks back, and they said, I've got a lead magnet here about time management. It's fantastic. It will really help people save a lot of time within a days and within weeks, but no one's having it. I said, well, what did you call it? He said, how to manage your time. And I said, well, would you have that lead magnet? And he said, no, it sounds boring. I said, well, there we go. So the best example I can give of this, to give you a real life example of how to name something, is we need to find out what they truly want. So for the example of the time management is what they need. But people always say, I wish I had more hours in the day. So therefore, your lead magnet would be called how to get more hours in your day or how to get 10 hours back in your week. So those two things work really well. Making sure you've got a strategy leading up to it, which obviously we can dive into if we need to in regards to that. But then also naming it properly as well, because if it's not named right, you won't want to read it, and it doesn't matter how valuable it is.
Mate, I think I've probably gone one step too far ahead in the first initial question. I'm going to go back quickly and then we'll go back into the strategy and the approach.
Please do.
What is a lead magnet and what is like the purpose of a lead magnet?
Really good question, mate. A lead magnet is a free resource you will exchange with people for their information. That's essentially what it is. It's going to be a useful and relevant resource that is free that you can give to people in exchange for their information. So you can then have them as a contact, and then over time build a relationship, and then over time hopefully get them on a sales call, and then hopefully have them as a client. So it's a tool, it's a strategy for you to get more clients in a longer term game.
Agree. And I think the thing that I'd add to that is how do you now continue to build even more trust and add even more value to the marketplace and allow you to be able to take people who are on your screen and are in your kind of like world and actually allow them the opportunity to be able to put their hand up to a specific problem that they're currently facing, and you being able to provide them with a solution to that problem. And then when you can give them that slice of the pie, it allows them to realize and understand, okay, the value, they feel more connected to you. And ultimately there's a greater degree of trust because you've now been able to lead with value and you've been able to help them with a problem that they've been potentially facing. And the quality of the lead magnet is also going to determine that. And I think sometimes I had a call with somebody just a second ago, and they're actually spending too much time and they're trying to think into too much depth and too much detail around the thing. And it's like, how can you almost keep it as simple and as easy as possible? Because so often we just normalize our norms and you think it needs to be this all singing or dancing. But I guarantee you that every single person listening to this podcast, if they open the documents on their desktop computer, they would have an abundance of resources, videos, cheat sheets, guides, recipes, trainings, whatever that they could now literally just repackage and repurpose without any additional work. And then obviously with the right strategy and the right approach, actually get more people to put their hand in the air, which will then actually lead to greater connections and an opportunity for people to come into your world. And then for you to be able to take them obviously on that buyer's journey, which is going to be mega. Let's have a look at the strategy and the approach. You talked about obviously the 10 days. What not necessarily are each of those 10 days, but what are some of the key things that need to be within that you believe are essential or integral that you feel as though have been working incredibly well?
Yeah, definitely, mate. I think a huge component is story-based content, as always, whether that's based around you and your journey to build rapport, empathy, connection with people, which is hugely important. That is a huge element of it. And then as well, from a business standpoint, what are the business values? What are the missions as well? So that, again, people can connect themselves and see themselves in this story that you're trying to build to hopefully help them get into that lead magnet. The next is then going to be like social proof of concepts. Does this work sort of approach? So if you're launching a lead magnet, having testimonials, progress pictures, whatever your social proof is, directly correlated to this lead magnet you're trying to launch so that they can see the connection between, oh, this is evidence of this thing working. It's now released on this day. I'm more likely to actually buy into this. So story-based about yourself is a huge component. And then obviously the testimonials and social proof of that is going to be a massive one. But as always, throughout content is the strategy in the launch is almost like a condensed version of a month-long or a month-long strategy anyway. Do you know what I mean? There's always going to be story, there's always going to be an empathy, there's always going to be social proof, there's always going to be value added. There's always going to be objection handling posts in there. They'll be really important as well. But the main thing is in the 7, 10, 14 days, whatever lead up to like lead magnet is, all of the content wants to be directly linked to that lead magnet. So they take them on that journey so that when the lead magnets launch, you've had this process of ushering them to it essentially.
Why do you believe the majority of people won't do that, or they currently don't action or implement that?
A complete lack of confidence in what that would look like for them, I believe, to some extent. I think this is a business owner problem in general. There's just lack of confidence in anything and everything you're doing because there's somewhat financial pressure on whatever it is you're doing. So it's fear of making a wrong move. I would say that's one of the main reasons, at least, but don't know your thoughts.
I think it's just actually now being able to have the patience, having the patience and being okay with actually just now give, build. Okay, launch. You know, here's the thing. because what happens is like, right, I need to do something. And there's like, throw something out there. That didn't work. Right. Okay. I'm going to throw something out there, but it's then reactive and it's actually not like planned, and it's not a process and it's not a strategy. And then when you don't have a plan and you don't have a process and you don't have a strategy, well, then you're reliant on hope. And then what you're doing is just throwing shit against the wall and hoping something's going to stick. And it's like, this person said I need to do this. Well, I'll go and do that. And then this person said I need to go and do this. Or I did a lead magnet and it didn't work. But it's like, your audience have about 0.6 of a second to be able to like to grab their attention. And the reality is like they will have literally just seen that as a fleeting thing. I can't even remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, let alone, you know, like what somebody's posted on social media. So it is also building that level of awareness as well, which takes time. And you've got to be able to now take people obviously on a journey and just not have this all or nothing mentality. And we spoke about this on a call a couple of weeks ago around like, if you do one thing and it doesn't work, then thinking, well, that's it, done. That, you know, like that's me now. Like I need to go and do something new. It's like, well, how do we iterate and make it better? What do we need to improve? What worked? What didn't work? And how can we be more experimental and more like a scientist around this, and actually just go and allow yourself to have more trial and error and realize that there isn't a failure. It's not this is the last time, you can't do it again. It's like, right, okay, what do I now need to do differently to improve the quality, to be able to raise more awareness, which is typically, as you said, it's in the hook, it's in the messaging, it's in the story, it's in the awareness, and it's also in the consistency of talking about the thing. I think often people won't want to talk about the thing too much, because if they talk about the thing too much, people think that they're being salesy, they're being boring, or it's not what people want to hear. When in fact, when it comes to a lead magnet, you're giving something away for free that can literally transform and help somebody if it's good, and you're now just leading with goodwill. And I think final point for me is your prospects are busy, lack clarity, and are skeptical. Like everybody listening to this podcast, they'll be like, even when you joined the High Performance Coach 4 years ago, yeah, like it was like, you were busy, you were skeptical, and you lacked clarity. And then it was like, well, okay, how can we now take you on that journey to be able to remove those barriers to entry? And what would that now look like for you to get to a point where it's like, okay, I'm ready. And that's the power of obviously having a lead magnet and leading with value and being able to be useful and lead with a give rather than a constant ask to try and take somebody from zero, don't really know you, to, do you want to buy my program?
Yeah, definitely, mate. I completely agree. It's yeah, I think that level of consistency you're saying there, you know, if we use an example everyone will resonate with, if you go in the gym one day and then you're just doing loads of random exercises for like 1 or 2 sets and then never doing them again, and you'll complain that that didn't work. Well, yeah, there needs to be a level of consistency. And I think one really important thing that I know I struggle with a lot is just trial and error. Like every single Instagram post you put out is an experiment. Will this work? If it has, why? Let's repeat. If it hasn't, why? Let's not do that again. Same with a launch. Like if you launch a lead magnet, you put a strategy in place, you launch a lead magnet every single month and it doesn't work, that's fine. You've got next month. Next month is still there. And then what you'll do is after 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 iterations of a launch and a lead magnet, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what is going to work and what's not, as opposed to doing one in January and going, nah, that doesn't work, and just never doing one again. It's like, you know, I think it's quite ironic as well, because again, I was guilty of this as well. Coaches are always talking about get out your comfort zone to their clients and, you know, do the hard things and all this. But then when it comes to social media, they don't take their own advice. I can say that because I was exactly the same as well. So yeah, step out of your comfort zone when it comes to marketing.
Yeah, it's just repeatedly doing it again, and actually not thinking, oh, I need to create a new lead magnet now. It's like, no, you don't need to go and create a new one. It's like, how do I now make this better? How can I now market it better? What's the strategy and what's the approach? What's the hook or what's the headline? Perfect example of this is every time you go onto Netflix, been onto Netflix, and it's like, oh, I've not seen that, but actually you have. They've just changed the front cover.
Yeah.
And then you're like, don't think I've watched Beckham. And it's like, well, no, actually, I've watched that thing, but it was just because it was a different front cover that they'd now used, which then grabbed your attention. And that then was the very thing. My pen's just gone crazy. And that's the very thing that's actually then led you into that that appropriate curiosity. And also realizing that it's that nurture process that you're now taking people through. We're going to come on to the buyer's journey in a second, but actually allowing people to actually like put the hand in the air, and they might watch the thing. They might not watch the thing, but that's one step closer to them now being in your world. And also there's a fear of, well, what if I do it and I only get one person that puts their hand up, or nobody puts their hand up? 2 points on this, and I wrote this down yesterday. The majority of business is getting no's. Like the majority of your business is centered around just like getting no's. That's going to be the reality for the majority of your business life. And it's actually being okay with that and normalizing that and seeing that actually is a great thing because you're one step closer to a yes, which I think is a brilliant piece. The second thing is if you get one person that puts a hand in the air. I had a cool conversation with somebody a second ago. They're like, yeah, I did a lead magnet, didn't get a massive engagement. I'm like, cool, we just need to iterate and change and do this approach. He's like, but the person, one of the people that did put their hand in the air, has already booked in a call, already wants to sign up, and he's a massive person of influence within the area. And he's going to be an incredible, if I can get this individual on board, he's going to be such a key person of influence that I now know is going to be so good for, like, if I deliver the service and the results that I now know that I'm capable of, for them further business. So it's just that one person is all that you need. You don't need 100 or 1,000, but if you can do that over and over and over and over again, and you build that momentum, and then on the back end, you've got email campaigns, or you've also then got the follow-up nurture sequence that allows you to build the connections and relationships. Well, you're now creating more multiple opportunities and building a far greater ecosystem rather than just creating content and then hoping somebody's going to say, yeah, I'm ready for some help, because people inherently don't like asking for help. You know, like being able to put your hand in the air. It's like, I think about this. If I go into a supermarket and I can't find something, I'm stubborn as anything. And I'll be like, I'm not going to ask that. I literally won't go up to like a shop assistant and go, excuse me, could you help me find the toilet roll or whatever? Yep. I would literally be like, nope, I'm going to find it. And then it's the last resort. Then I'll go, sorry, could you help me find this? I'm never a person that will always go to somebody straight away and say, could you help me with it? Different people are different, but it's actually realizing if you can remove that barrier and make it easier for people to put their hand in the air, you're going to create so many more opportunities. It's just allowing yourself to get out your own way and realize that you are going to get no's and you are going to get rejected, and people aren't going to be forthcoming straight away, and that's okay.
Yeah, definitely, mate, 100%.
Buyer's journey. Talk me through the thought process surrounding obviously a buyer's journey and the key things that somebody needs to have in place when it now comes to obviously actually like launching a program and obviously now being able to take people obviously through a structured process. And what does that now look like, not just in terms of the front facing, but then also actually what you're trying to do on the back end from a connection piece?
Yeah, so the buyer's journey is the sense that whenever anybody buys anything, whether it's a product or service, they go through what's called a buyer's journey, which is broken into 3 stages. The first stage is called awareness. This is now where they become aware of the problem they have, or discovering a problem they have, or trying to name or identify a problem or pain point that they have, whether that's trying to find a new toilet roll or trying to find a coach. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. The awareness is now the first stage of that coming to fruition. The second phase is then going to be the consideration phase. This is where they found out what their problem is. They've named it. You know, they've got to terms with that. They're now searching for solutions for it. For coaches, you know, they'll be searching for gyms in the area. They're searching for people on Instagram to help them, like coaching programs, and they'll get a handful to then really make their mind up as to which one's going to be best for them. Once they've done that, they then go into stage 3, which is the decision-making phase. This is where they whittle down those solutions to 3, 2, maybe even 1. Maybe it's just you, whether deciding whether that is the right decision or not. So that's the process in itself. So stage 1 in awareness, from a marketing perspective, this content is going to be about highlighting pain points and highlighting problems to really help people, again, identify that pain point and realize that you're the person that's got this wealth of information as to where they are, so they can keep coming back to you because they know that you're a reliable source of information. Next is then going to be the consideration phase. This is where it's more focused on value content. This is where it's about helping solve those pain points, so you can then become that authority, that point of solution for them. So you've sort of captured them to pain points in stage 1. Stage 2 is where the value then comes in. And then number 3, when it comes to the decision phase, this is where, again, they've whittled it down to 2, 3, maybe even just you. This is where you now want to be speaking more about your unique selling point, for example, because if they've got 2 people that they've whittled it down to, you're in the top 2 contenders, you need to then differentiate why are you different to everyone else? Why would they pick you over someone else? So what is your unique selling point? From there as well, again, it's more so because it's a decision phase, it's more so about reassuring them that you are the right decision. Because I say this all the time, I think coaches get acclimatized to the words like return on investment, investing. Whereas if you're targeting Gen Pop people, which most people are, they have a 9-to-5 job a lot of the time, and they don't really understand the concept of return on investment, because when do they invest money unless they're like into finances, which is a very small percentage of the population? So when do they invest? When do they comprehend that, oh, when I give over money, I get more in return, which is a better life, better well-being? So your job at this point in stage 3 is really reassuring them that the cash that they're handing over is going to be giving them more in return. The trepidation they have towards working with you or even reaching out to you alone is going to be okay, that you're the person that's going to lead them to success. So this is where across all of this, you also then have to still put in, connection, relatability, empathy to really show that you understand and get it with these people. So they're the 3 stages in terms of where a client is per stage will also dictate where they are when you're DMing them or when you're outreaching to them, or even when you're on a sales call to them. A lot of the time, some people may be in the awareness phase on a sales call, and we're trying to treat them as if they're in the decision phase. You know what I mean? Like, we have to tailor the sales call approach and the marketing to where they are on the journey, because if they're in the awareness phase, they're just trying to identify pain points, and you're in the decision phase trying to convince them that you're the right match. It's like, no, I'm just here for you to reassure me on the pain point and let me know that this is a normal thing for me to be going through, and maybe we can have another call in the future. That's where a discovery call can come in place. If you're in a DM with someone and you'll realize that they're in the awareness phase or the consideration phase, you can then offer them just a 15-20 minute call. Just be like, hey, I just want to get to know you and help you with where you are right now. Then if you think you've moved them into the decision phase past that point, you can then get on a consultation call or a sales call and really move them across. So, you've got to look at this from a marketing perspective, but also from a service perspective as well, and sort of match up where you think they're best going to be with it. So, yeah.
Mate, I love that last segment. And I think one of the biggest challenges, again, that coaches struggle with is that when you get onto a sales call, it's like kind of, do or die. Like, it's like, right, okay, this has to now, I can't now not get a no. But it's then, like you say, that level of awareness of like, right, okay, what and where is somebody in their journey right now? What are my expectations of this call? What are their expectations of this call? And if you now go in with that expectation, they go in with this expectation, then again, you're going to clash heads. Not only that, they're going to walk away with not what they want, and you're going to walk away thinking, well, I've done something wrong. I'm not good at sales. I don't know what I'm doing. And what's the point? I'm charging too much money, or insert whatever belief that you have at that moment in time. So I think just having that level of awareness and consciousness, I think, is so powerful. You touched upon in the decision phase, the like unique selling point. Talk me through. I know we had a call last week around this with some of the coaches. Talk me through what that even would look like for somebody, or how one would understand what their unique selling point would be.
Good question, mate. People struggle with this, understandably, 100%. One gripe I have about this is where any business, whether coaching or not, people will say, oh, we deliver a great service or we deliver great results. That's baseline of running a business, right?
That's what you should expect. That's foundational level. That's level 1.
That is a given. Like, that is not, you know what I mean? That is literally ground zero for you to provide the service you're claiming you can provide. That is not a unique selling point. So if that's you right now, here's your point of warning. That is not a unique selling point. That is ground zero. Unique selling point. When you're marketing your business as a coach, you're marketing 50% you and 50% a result. So we want to look at it in 2 ways. What is a unique selling point of you? That's going to be your story, your empathy, your struggles, so you can then resonate with people. That is going to be very unique to you from a personal perspective. But then the other 50% of what you're selling is a result. So creating a unique selling point for that, which will be something like a certain method you're using, or a strategy, or a framework with your nutrition or your training, or how you deliver to people, like anything in regards to that. And this doesn't have to be something you have to reinvent the wheel for. This can be just how you're currently doing things in your own specific way of nutrition and training, and putting a name on it. Do you know what I mean? Like the Troy Nixon method of nutrition. It could just be, I'm getting you to track calories, but I also want you to have a Domino's every Saturday, so you're not going off the rails, which is what I do in a deficit. The Troy Nixon special.
The Domino shred. The shred.
Hey, it works a dream, mate. I was absolutely shredded on that. And so, do you know what I mean? So that would be a unique selling point, or it could be something that you know, you could look at your main competitor and do the complete opposite of them and then use that as a unique selling point or anything along the lines of that. And again, just to reiterate, it doesn't have to be something you're reinventing the wheel with. It's probably something you're already doing now. You've just been blind to it until you've listened to this podcast. And then you can put a little fancy name on it and promote that as your unique selling point to it.
Yeah, everything is storytelling, you know, which is what you communicated. And it's like, this is the old way. This is what I used to do. This is basically when I ate chicken, broccoli, and rice. I did 7 days worth of cardio and I basically just absolutely battered myself to try and get ready for holiday. And this is how I felt. This is how I looked. And this was the reality until I realized that you could, you know, do this, and do this, which is exactly now why we've introduced and we now operate with this insert methodology. So you now don't have to A, B, C, and D, and you can. And when you understand your people and you know what they've been through, what they've experienced, what they've done before, they're like, that's me. That's what I've been going through. I feel like that's what I've had to do. And there's that new way and that new opportunity. Nobody ever wants something as like an improvement. Everybody wants like something new. There's going to be something they haven't now tried before. And it's going to seem like this novel, uninformed optimism that they can now like really step into with that, which I think is powerful. And exactly as you said, it's like, you don't have to make it this complex, crazy thing. Actually, the more story you bring into it, which is you, and I think even just the energy, the vitality, the lifeblood that you bring to that thing, the belief, the confidence, the conviction, the certainty, you embodying it, you living it, you talking about it, you know, and actually you now just, I think just being it, you know, like that's the thing that really drives that level of certainty and trust, which is massive when it now comes to being able to be in a position that you can now start to bridge the gap from where you are and where your people are and actually allowing them to take that first step. And I think one big thing that people fear is that I don't want to talk about myself or I don't want to talk about me because it's about my people. And it's like, well, people buy people. And if you say, this is how amazing I am and this is what I've done and here's all the awards that I've won and, you know, like, look at how brilliant I am. Yeah, people are going to be like switched off to it. Whereas if you're like, here's what I've experienced, here's what I've been through, here are my lessons, and here are some of the biggest wins that I've accomplished or I've been able to see as a byproduct of doing A, B, C, and D. Completely different feel and energy and obviously intention around it, which is then going to give people that opportunity to go, right, okay, they get it. And I think that's such a powerful piece, but so often becomes overcomplicated because you're also then trying to one up somebody else. You're trying to add more complexity to what you do instead of actually keeping it as simple and as easy as possible in terms of allowing people to understand the result that you get people and actually how you now do it.
Yeah, definitely, mate.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. In terms of keeping marketing simple and straightforward, like just imagine you're speaking to 5-year-olds on the internet. They're always asking why and what, and you just like got to preempt them questions and get them in as simple as possible.
What do you think is the biggest challenge that people face with doing that?
The perception of what they think it has to be, which is shiny and complex, and I run a business, so therefore it has to be. Business has to be complicated. It's like I always say, business is like a calorie deficit. Really, really fucking simple, but very hard to do in reality. You know what I mean? Like the hardest part of running a business is getting comfortable with doing the boring, mundane stuff over and over and over and over again. Same as a calorie deficit.
Yeah, it's that acknowledgement and just that level of understanding and awareness around being able to speak in that first step language. And how can you basically allow somebody to understand what you do in baby food version? And realizing that right now, like what happens is actually when you first start out in the industry, I think actually getting leads is easier because you're at a level where you actually just speak at a certain level of like simplicity because you haven't now gone through the complexity of your own development. And then the more that you start to develop, the more you start to grow, the more you start to layer obviously all these different ideas, the methodologies, your approach, where you are, what you're currently doing. And I've done this and I've made this mistake massively. And it's then all of a sudden, then you start to communicate that language, but actually you're talking 5 steps ahead of actually where your market are. But then you think going back to level 1 and talking like that, you're almost like, that's boring. That's not fun. That's not what I want to talk about. That's me feeling like I'm going backwards.
Yeah.
Instead of actually realizing that so often that's, even to think about myself, is like that's just your ego that's getting in the way, that's stopping you from being able to connect with your people. Then when they come into your program, then you take them on the customer. I think we'll do another podcast on like the customer journey, the retention formula that you now need to be able to actually get clients and then keep clients. I think we'll do that for an episode for another day. But then that's the level of complexity and the levels and the layers that you then start to uncover once somebody's in your room and they've already started to build that relationship with you. But it's like, how do you make it so simple that you can just show your work, that they can actually understand, okay, that's what they do, because they're busy, they like clarity, and they're skeptical. So how can you remove that as much as possible? And the more awareness people have, the more likely they are to make a decision.
Yeah, totally agree, mate. Mm-hmm.
Final question. And then we're going to give the listeners something, if they've made it this far, a valuable lead magnet that I think is going to help them monumentally with their business as a byproduct of now being able to stick with us and stay the course and obviously commit to progress. What's Troy Nixon changed his mind on recently?
On business or personal?
Anything, mate. Is there anything in your life that you've changed your mind on?
That's a really good question, mate. Coffee, I guess, because if you'd asked me if I'd be giving coffee up for 3 months about a year ago, I'd say you're mental. So yeah, maybe my relationship with coffee and caffeine, I would say, yeah, that's the most recent thing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I just think that's such a powerful question to ask, because I think so often you actually don't almost realize sometimes what you've changed your mind on, because you're so like, you normalize your norms, don't you? So you just think everything as is, and you're just going through this journey. And actually, when you look back, you're like, actually, do you know what? That was a key shift in my thinking that I didn't necessarily give myself credit for or appreciation of. And then it's like, what's the construct? What helped me, allow me to come to that decision? And then again, that's even a piece of content within itself, you know? So, yeah, man, I love that.
All right, well, I've got a question for you then, mate. This is my favorite party question. You ready?
I think I know what it is, and my brain's already going with an assumption.
What was the last thing you did for the first time?
The last thing that I did for the first time was go to Braga for a residency meeting and sit in front of a lady who was pulling her hair out, and whilst I was trying to understand what she was trying to communicate with me in Portuguese, as she was getting shouted at by all of these other people because their systems were down, the things weren't working. So that was the last thing that I did for the first time, which was apply for residency to move to another country, and then have a huge, enormous sense of appreciation and gratitude just for the power of relationships and how to communicate. And the thing that I love that she said, she only spoke a little bit of English. And I was like, oh, this is, I love the word beautiful. And then I thought it was beautiful. She basically couldn't really obviously convey, her English was far better than my Portuguese. And I basically said, like, how long are you going to be here for? Like, obviously, you know, like, have you got a lot of people? Because there was people stressing out and going crazy. And she says, like, we will basically do whatever it takes and we'll stay as long as now needed, because at the end of the day, we're person first. We're dealing with people. And I just thought, that's just like that embodied. I was like, that is literally like our kind of entire ethos in terms of, we're dealing with human beings, we're dealing with people. We're not dealing with like transactional, we're not dealing with robots, and what they're doing is really, really important. And if people are unable to facilitate their meeting, regardless of what's happened, whether it's a system or whether it's out with their control, they're like, no, we'll basically stay until everybody gets seen, because this is obviously a lot of people's livelihoods and that's essential. So yeah, like a piece that I really enjoyed and found like a lot of like connection and relatability, obviously, with that individual when she said that.
Yeah, decent like that. Very cool. Very cool.
So, Mr. Troy Nixon, I appreciate you. I know that you have put together an incredible 10-day lead magnet strategy, approach, and overview. If you have now made it to this point in the podcast, we're now going to give you a free gift and an opportunity for you to never to have that for absolutely nothing. There is going to be no opt-in. There is going to be no back-end like email or anything along those lines. It is literally going to be, if you drop me a message or Troy a message on Instagram with the word lead magnet, we will basically send you over a 10-day step-by-step approach that you can now apply to the next lead magnet that you're now going to put out for you to be able to A, allow you to impact more people, B, actually allow you to get it in more people's hands, and C, then actually allow you to connect with people on a deeper level and then hopefully take them on a journey which may lead to them being one step closer to having the trust and the confidence and belief in them now working with you. This is something that we have been doing, that we have applied obviously inside the High Performance Coach, and it's had monumental success. So if you want the lead magnet, drop me or Troy a message with the word lead magnet, and we will send that over to you. Mr. Troy Nixon, I appreciate you. We will get back onto another podcast and we will do all things customer journey, customer process, retention, and the power and the key principles that are now going to be surrounding that. I appreciate your wisdom as always, my good sir. Go and have a Bovril or a peppermint tea to curb the coffee. And mate, I look forward to catching up with you very, very soon.